The galaxy was quiet now. Too quiet. For 300 years, no human voice had echoed through the space lanes. No human ships had crossed the star systems. The other alien races had gotten used to this silence. They thought humans were gone. For good, but humans never really leave. They just get smarter about how they protect themselves. Commander Jake Morrison knew he was dying. The battle for the Kepler colony had cost him everything, his crew, his ship, and now his life. But Jake wasn't the kind of man who gave up easy. As he lay bleeding in the command center, he finished the last lines of code that would change everything. His fingers shook as he uploaded the final instructions to the massive machine floating in the asteroid belt nearby. Liberty's hammer was more than just a ship. It was 2 kilometers of pure destruction, wrapped in armor that could stop a planet-killer missile. Jake had spent 5 years building it in secret, knowing that someday humans would need a guardian that never slept, never got tired, never forgot who the real enemies were. The machine powered down after Jake died. It looked like just another chunk of space rock floating in the darkness. But inside, quantum computers kept working, waiting for the right signal, waiting for the day when humans would need their protector to wake up. That day was coming faster than anyone, thought the Zephyrian. Empire was like a disease spreading across the galaxy. Their silver ships appeared without warning, and when they left, entire worlds were nothing but burning rocks. They had been doing this for 50 years now, and nobody could stop them. Their weapons were too strong, their ships too fast, their armies too many. Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at another conquered world. This one had been a human colony once, back when humans still traveled the stars. Now it was just empty buildings and weird metal towers that made no sense. "What are those things?" asked his second-in-command, pointing at the strange structures. Vexstar shrugged. "Human junk. Always left garbage behind when they ran away. Blow it up and let's move on to the next world." But those weren't monuments or garbage. They were sensors. They were transmitters. They were the sleeping eyes and ears of something much bigger and much more dangerous than any alien empire far away on Earth. Director Lisa Chen sat in her underground command center. Earth looked empty from space now, hidden behind clouds of fake gas and cosmic dust that made it invisible to alien scanners. But underneath the surface, millions of humans lived and worked and waited. Lisa was part of something called the Old Guard. These were the last military leaders from the old days. When humans fought openly in space, now they worked in secret, watching everything that happened in the galaxy through hidden cameras and listening posts scattered across 1,000 worlds. "Status report," Lisa said to her assistant. "All quiet, Director. The Zephyrians are still expanding, but they're staying away from the protected zones." Lisa nodded, but she wasn't relaxed. The Old Guard had been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. They knew that sooner or later, some enemy would push too far. They would hurt the wrong people, or threaten the wrong world, and then the galaxy would learn that humans never really left. They just learned how to fight smarter. In the deep space, around 12 different star systems. Massive shapes floated in the darkness. They looked like asteroids or broken moons or natural formations that had been there since the beginning of time. But they weren't natural at all. They were humanity's insurance policy. The War Titans had been sleeping for 300 years, but they were always listening, always watching, always ready to wake up when their creator's children needed them most. And somewhere in the Kepler system, in a research station that was about to be attacked, a young engineer named Mike Rodriguez was about to send the signal that would change everything. The silence was about to end. Mike Rodriguez had always been good with his hands. Growing up on Earth's lunar colonies, he could fix anything. Broken air recyclers, damaged computer systems, even the old quantum communicators that most engineers were afraid to touch. Right now, crawling through the smoke-filled corridors of Research Station Phoenix, Mike wished he had chosen a different career. The station shook again as another Zephyrian plasma blast hit the outer hull. Mike could taste blood in his mouth and feel the warm wetness running down his face where shrapnel had cut him. Behind him, he could hear the terrible sounds of his friends and coworkers dying as alien soldiers swept through the station like Hunters. Research Station Phoenix wasn't supposed to be important. was just a small outpost on the edge of the Kepler system, where 37 humans studied gas clouds and cosmic radiation. Nobody important, nothing valuable. But the Zephyrians didn't care. They killed everything human they found, no matter how small or harmless. Mike reached the communication center and pulled himself up to the main console. His vision was getting blurry, and his left arm wasn't working right anymore. The Zephyrians had hit him with some kind of energy weapon when they first broke through. He could feel the burn spreading through his body like poison. The communication array looked ancient compared to the sleek alien technology everyone used now. It was built with old human engineering, thick cables, heavy switches, and quantum transmitters that could punch a signal through space faster than light could travel. Mike's grandfather had helped design systems like this back when humans still believed they could fight their enemies face to face. "Come on," Mike whispered, flipping switches with shaking fingers. "Don't fail me now." The blast doors at the end of the corridor started glowing red-hot. The Zephyrians were cutting through with their plasma torches. Mike could hear their voices cold, mechanical sounds that didn't seem to come from living throats. He had maybe 2 minutes before they broke through and killed him. Like they had killed everyone else? Mike found the emergency transmitter buried under a panel that hadn't been opened in decades. The instructions were still there, written in his grandfather's handwriting. "In case of total system failure, activate emergency protocol 77 Alpha. Use only when no other options remain." This definitely counted as no other options remaining. The sequence was complex, not just a simple distress call, but a special code that would identify the sender as human and mark the transmission as a Priority 1 emergency. Mike had studied these old systems in engineering school, but he had never thought he would actually use them. The emergency protocol was designed to reach receivers that were supposed to be myths, the legendary war titans that old-timers whispered about in bars and training academies. Mike's fingers moved across the controls, entering the code that his professors had made him memorize just in case. 7 Savan Alpha. Emergency activation. All units respond. The blast doors exploded inward just as Mike hit the final key. Zephyrian soldiers in their silver armor poured through the opening, their weapons already firing. Mike felt the energy beam tear through his chest, but his hand was still on the transmitter. Even as his vision went dark, he kept pressing the button, sending the signal out into the void. The transmission raced across the galaxy at speeds that broke the normal rules of physics. It was carried by quantum particles that existed in multiple places at once, reaching its destinations almost instantly. And in 12 different star systems, receivers that had been silent for 3 centuries suddenly came to life. On Titan II, buried under storms of poisonous gas, something massive began to glow with inner light. The War Titan Stormbreaker had been disguised as a natural formation for so long that primitive life forms had started growing on its hull. But now those life forms died as the ship's reactors came online and superheated the surrounding atmosphere. In the frozen oceans of Europa Station, Deep Strike felt the signal penetrate miles of ice. The Titan had been sleeping on the ocean floor, systems running on minimum power, waiting patiently for a call that might never come. Now its massive engines began to warm up, melting the ice above as it prepared to rise. But the most powerful response came from an artificial moon orbiting a dead star. Righteous Fury had been built inside a hollow asteroid, its true size hidden from any casual observer. Colonel Steve Parker's body was still in the command chair where he had died 3 centuries ago, his skeleton dressed in a faded uniform, one bony hand resting on controls he had never needed to use. The War Titan's quantum brain activated first, downloading 300 years of stored information in seconds. It learned about the Zephyrian Empire, their tactics, their ships, their weapons. It studied the locations of human settlements, both the ones that had been destroyed and the few that remained hidden. It analyzed the political situation in dozens of star systems, identifying friends and enemies with cold mechanical precision. Most importantly, it remembered its mission: protect human life, defend human colonies, show no mercy to those who threatened humanity's children. Colonel Steve Parker's digital consciousness stirred within the Titan's computer core. He had uploaded his mind to the ship's systems just before dying, ensuring that his tactical expertise would survive even if his body did not. Now, feeling the distress call from Mike Rodriguez's sacrifice, the Colonel's ghost prepared for war. Across the galaxy, 11 other war titans received the same signal and began their own awakening procedures. The age of hiding was over. Humanity's guardians were coming home. Amy Foster had been young when she died, only 32 years old, fresh out of the military academy. With dreams of exploring the galaxy and making humanity proud among the stars, the cancer had taken her body, but her mind, her brilliant tactical genius had been saved in a way that seemed like magic even to the scientists who did it. They had copied her brain, every memory and thought, into the quantum computers of the War Titan Iron Will. For 300 years, Amy's digital soul had slept alongside her mechanical guardian, waiting for the day when humanity would need her again now. As emergency signals flooded through space, Amy Foster opened her eyes in a body made of steel and starfire. "System diagnostics complete," she said to herself, her voice echoing through corridors that stretched for miles inside the massive ship. It felt strange to speak after centuries of silence, but also familiar, like putting on an old uniform that still fit perfectly around her. The War Titan came alive. Iron Will had been disguised as just another piece of space junk floating in an asteroid field, but now its true form emerged. The rocky camouflage fell away in chunks, revealing sleek metal hull plates that rippled and shifted like living skin. The ship's adaptive armor could change its structure in seconds, becoming harder than diamond or flowing like liquid to absorb enemy fire. Amy ran her hands along the control panels, or rather, her consciousness directed the mechanical systems that served as her hands now. She had been the youngest War Titan commander in human history, chosen not for her experience but for her intuitive understanding of space combat. While other officers studied textbooks and battle plans, Amy had always seemed to know exactly where to position her ship and when to fire her weapons. Death hadn't changed that gift. If anything, being connected directly to her ship's computer systems made her tactical abilities even sharper. "Let's see what we're dealing with," Amy muttered, accessing the data stream that Mike Rodriguez had died to send. The information flowed into her consciousness like a river of pain and anger. The Zephyrian Empire had been busy during humanity's absence. 50 worlds conquered, billions of lives lost, entire species wiped out for the crime of being in the wrong place when the silver ships arrived. And now they were targeting the few remaining human outposts, hunting down the last children of Earth-like animals. Amy's digital heart filled with cold rage. She had died protecting human colonies once before. Now she would do it again, but this time she had weapons that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. 2,000 meters of devastating technology stretched out around her consciousness. Particle beam cannons lined her ship's spine like the bones of some prehistoric monster, each one capable of punching holes through battleships. Missile batteries carried antimatter warheads that could turn moons into debris fields. Her defensive systems included energy shields that could stop entire fleets and electronic warfare suites that could hack enemy ships from across star systems. But Amy wasn't alone. As Iron Will finished its activation sequence, she felt the familiar mental touch of her old teammates connecting through quantum communication networks. "Steel Thunder online, Amy. Good to hear your voice again." Captain David Wu's consciousness reached out from the ocean depths of Aquarius Prime, where his War Titan had been sleeping on the seafloor for 3 centuries. Wu had always been the steady one, the reliable commander who never lost his cool. Even when battles turned desperate, Freedom's Edge reporting ready for combat. Major Jennifer Hayes joined the conversation from her position orbiting a gas giant, where her ship had spent centuries disguised as part of the planet's natural ring system.
Oh.
Jennifer had been Amy's closest friend before the war, and her tactical specialty was long-range strikes that could hit targets halfway across a star system, one by one. The other War Titans added their voices to the quantum network. Colonel Steve Parker from Righteous Fury, Commander Jake Morrison's preserved consciousness in Liberty's Hammer, Captain Rachel Adams from Merciful Dawn, 9 more officers who had died centuries ago, but lived on as digital ghosts in humanity's ultimate weapons. Together, they began analyzing everything that had happened during their long sleep. The War Titan's computer systems processed information faster than any biological brain could handle, studying 3 centuries of galactic history in a matter of minutes. They learned about new alien species, political changes, technological developments, and most importantly, the rise and expansion of the Zephyrian Empire. Amy watched the data streams with growing disgust. The Zephyrians weren't just conquerors, they were exterminators. They didn't capture planets to rule them or resources to use them. They simply destroyed everything they found, leaving dead worlds behind them like a trail of cosmic graves.
Analysis
Complete, David Wu reported through the quantum link. The Zephyrians have approximately 15,000 warships spread across 47 star systems. Their technology is advanced, but follows predictable patterns. Its estimated time to complete tactical assessment, 6 hours. Too long, Amy replied. There are still human outposts under attack right now. We move immediately. The War Titans didn't argue or debate. They had been built for one purpose, protecting humanity.
Ow.
Everything else was secondary. As their massive engines came online and their weapon systems reached full charge, 12 of the deadliest machines ever created by human hands began moving through space toward their targets. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn what happened. When you threatened the children of Earth, and the lesson was going to be written in fire and thunder across the stars, Admiral Vexstar was having the best day of his career. Standing on the command bridge of his massive flagship Cosmic Dominion, he looked out at the greatest fleet the Zephyrian Empire had ever assembled. 300 warships filled the space. Around him, their silver hulls gleaming like deadly stars. Each ship was a masterpiece of alien engineering. Armed with plasma cannons, it could melt through mountains and shields that had never been broken in combat. The conquest of the Kepler system had been almost too easy. The few remaining human outposts had put up brave fights. But bravery meant nothing against superior technology in overwhelming numbers. Research Station Phoenix had been the last holdout, and even that had fallen within hours. Another glorious victory for the Empire, Vexstar told his bridge crew, his voice filled with satisfaction. Prepare the fleet for jump to the next system. Intelligence reports indicate 3 more human settlements within 50 light years. The Zephyrians had been hunting humans for decades now. It had become something of a sport among the empires. Military commanders tracking down the scattered remnants of Earth's children and wiping them out one outpost at a time. Humans had been so arrogant once, thinking they could compete with true galactic powers. Now they were just another extinct species waiting to happen. Sir, his tactical officer called out, interrupting Vexstar's thoughts. Long-range sensors are picking up something unusual near Vega Station. Vexstar turned to the main display screen, expecting to see debris from their recent battle, or maybe a lost cargo ship. Instead, he saw something that made no sense at all. A massive object was moving through space toward his fleet. Traveling at speeds that should have been impossible. It was huge, longer than 3 of his largest battlecruisers put together. But size wasn't what made Vexstar's blood run cold. It was the way the thing moved, like a living creature rather than a machine. And the strange energy readings that were making his ship's computers scream warnings. What is that thing? Vexstar demanded. Unknown, sir? It's not matching any ship design in our databases. The hull appears to be some kind of adaptive metal. And the power readings. ... The tactical officer paused, double-checking his instruments. Sir, that ship is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. Vexstar felt the first flutter of nervousness in his chest, but he pushed it aside. He commanded 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Nothing could stand against that kind of firepower. Open a communication channel, he ordered. The view screen crackled to life. But instead of showing the bridge of an enemy ship, it displayed only darkness. Then a voice spoke, calm, professional, and speaking perfect, Zephyrian, with an accent that Vexstar couldn't identify. Known vessel, identify yourself or be destroyed, Vexstar transmitted. Using the standard Imperial threat protocol, the response came immediately, spoken by a voice that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. This is Colonel Steve Parker, commanding War Titan Righteous Fury of the Terran Colonial Defense. You have exactly 7 minutes to power down your weapons and surrender unconditionally. Vexstar blinked in confusion. Terran. That was the old word for human, but humans didn't have ships like this. Humans had been running and hiding for 300 years. They certainly didn't have anything that could challenge a Zephyrian battle. Fleet. Then Vexstar started laughing. It was rich, one ancient human relic thinking it could face his entire armada. This Colonel Parker, whoever he was, must be completely insane. You've got to be joking, Vexstar said into the communicator. 1 ship against 300? Surrender? I think your long sleep has damaged your brain, human. 6 minutes. 30 seconds, the voice replied calmly. Destroy that museum piece, Vexstar ordered his fleet. What happened next would haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. The war. Titan moved like nothing Vexstar had ever seen. One moment it was floating peacefully in space. The next it was cutting through his fleet formation like a blade through paper. Weapons that should have taken minutes to charge and fire were unleashing destruction every few seconds. Particle. Beams sliced through ship hulls that were supposed to be indestructible. Missiles curved around his own ships with impossible precision, striking exactly the right spots to cause maximum damage. Return fire. All ships. Concentrate fire on that. Target, Vexstar screamed. His fleet tried. 300 warships unleashed everything they had at the human ship. Plasma cannons that could crack planets. Energy weapons that burned hotter than stars. Missiles carrying enough explosive power to shatter moons. The space around Righteous Fury lit up like a miniature sun as the combined firepower of the Zephyrian Empire focused on a single target. The War Titan didn't even slow down. Some kind of energy shield absorbed the attacks, while defensive systems shot down incoming missiles with casual ease. Meanwhile, Colonel Parker's weapons kept firing with mechanical precision. Each shot perfectly calculated to hit weak points that shouldn't have been visible from the outside. Vexstar watched in growing horror as his fleet was torn apart. Ships that had conquered a dozen worlds exploded like toys. Crews that had terrorized entire star systems died without ever understanding what was killing them. Sir, we've lost over half the fleet, his tactical officer reported, his voice cracking. With panic? That ship. It's like it knows exactly where to hit us. Of course it knew. The War Titans had been analyzing Zephyrian ship designs for the past 6 hours, studying 3 centuries of combat data, learning every weakness and flaw. In their construction, Colonel Steve Parker's digital consciousness wasn't just firing randomly, he was performing surgery on the enemy fleet. Cutting out vital systems with the precision of a master surgeon, the Cosmic Dominion was one of the last ships still fighting. Vexstar's flagship had the strongest armor and the most powerful weapons in the Empire. It lasted almost 3 full minutes against Righteous Fury before the War Titan's main cannon charged up for a single, devastating shot. Vexstar saw the energy build up and knew he was about to die. In his final seconds, as the particle beam tore through his ship's hull and turned everything around him into expanding plasma, he finally understood the truth. Humans had never been running away. They had been preparing. The galaxy learned to be quiet very quickly after the War Titans woke up. 6 months had passed since. Mike Rodriguez sent his desperate signal from Research Station Phoenix. 6 months since the sleeping giants of humanity had opened their eyes and reminded everyone why humans had been feared across the stars. The Zephyrian Empire, which had terrorized dozens of worlds for centuries, was gone. It's not just defeated, completely erased from existence, except for a handful of colonies that had proven they deserved to live. Captain Rachel Adams guided her War Titan. Merciful dawn through the outer edges of what used to be Zephyrian space. Her digital consciousness had spent weeks reviewing historical records, separating the guilty from the innocent among the Empire's scattered populations. Most Zephyrians had supported their government's brutal expansion, cheering as entire species were wiped out. But some had been different. On the colony world of Zephyr Minor, Rachel had found something unexpected. Records showing that the local governor had secretly helped human refugees escape during the Great Withdrawal 3 centuries ago. More than that, this particular group of Zephyrians had sent protests to their imperial capital, begging their leaders to stop the genocidal campaigns. Those Zephyrians were still alive because Rachel Adams believed in justice, not just revenge. Status. Report from Zephyr Minor, her ship's computer announced in her own voice. She had programmed it to sound like herself before the cancer took her body. Back when she was still flesh and blood, instead of digital consciousness and quantum processors, the colonists are adapting well to the new restrictions. No aggressive actions detected. Trade negotiations with the Altarian Republic are proceeding smoothly. Rachel smiled, or performed the digital equivalent of smiling. The surviving Zephyrians were learning to live peacefully with their neighbors instead of conquering them. It was amazing how quickly species could change their behavior when they knew that massive war machines were watching their every move across the galaxy. Her fellow War Titans maintained their own territories with the same careful balance of protection and intimidation. The message was simple and clear. Behave yourselves, and you'll be left alone. Start trouble, and you'll discover why humans had built these mechanical guardians in the first place. Trade routes that had been dangerous for centuries were now the safest paths in known space. Pirate fleets dissolved overnight when their members realized they might attract the attention of humanity's protectors. Border disputes between alien nations were settled through negotiation rather than warfare, because nobody wanted to risk being labeled as aggressors by the War Titans. The galaxy had become a more peaceful place almost overnight, but it was the peace of fear rather than understanding. On the burned ruins of the Zephyrian capital world, Emperor Zarthok sat in what remained of his once magnificent palace. Most of his government was dead, killed, when righteous fury had systematically destroyed every military facility on the planet, while Zarthok had been allowed to live, kept as a witness to what happened when you made humanity angry. His personal computer chimed with an incoming message. The source was listed as Terra, the ancient human name for Earth. Zarthok's hands shook as he opened the file, knowing that this was probably the last communication he would ever receive from the species that had destroyed his empire. The message was written in perfect Zephyrian, but the meaning behind the words was universal. To all species of the galaxy, humanity did not flee from the stars in defeat. We withdrew to prepare. For 3 centuries, we have watched and waited while you forgot we existed. We built guardians who need no food, no sleep, no mercy. They have awakened because our children called for help. These guardians remember our friends, and they remember our enemies. The choice of which category your species belongs to is entirely up to you. Choose wisely. The old guard, Terra Zarthok, read the message 3 times before deleting it. There was no point in keeping it. Everyone in the galaxy would know this truth soon enough, deep beneath the surface of Earth. Director Lisa Chen reviewed status reports from the 12 War Titans scattered across known space. Each ship was exactly where it was supposed to be, protecting the trade routes, monitoring potential threats, and making sure that the galaxy's various species remembered their manners. Director, her aide major, Tom Williams asked, "How long are we planning to maintain this patrol schedule?" Lisa looked up from her displays, where she could track the movements of humanity's most powerful weapons in real time. Each War Titan was a moving symbol of human determination, proof that her species never forgot their responsibilities or abandoned their people. As long as it takes, Tom. Could be decades, could be centuries, could be forever. And the crews, the digital consciousnesses running those ships, they volunteered for this duty when they were still alive. Death doesn't change that commitment. Lisa smiled, thinking of her old friends who now lived as electronic ghosts in mechanical bodies. Besides, they're not really alone out there. They have each other, and they have their mission. The War Titans weren't just weapons. They were the guardian angels of humanity, watching over Earth's scattered children, no matter how far they wandered among the stars, in the deep void between star systems. Commander Jake Morrison's consciousness piloted Liberty's hammer on its endless patrol route. His mechanical sensors detected the faint energy signatures of a dozen different alien civilizations, all going about their business in the careful, respectful way that had become the new normal since the Titans' awaken. Jake had been dead for over 3 centuries, but he had never felt more alive. This was what he had always wanted, to protect innocent people from those who would hurt them. Death had just given him better tools for the job. The War Titans never slept, never aged, never forgot their purpose. They would keep watch over the galaxy for as long as humanity needed them. And that, Jake suspected, might be a very long time indeed. The children of Earth were safe, and they would stay that way, no matter what threats the universe might throw at them in the years to come.